handsome neighbor offered to help fix my faucet while my husband was gone. And yeah, I did it. No, it's funny how your life could just change in a twinkle of an eye. I recently did something stupid. I don't even know what came over me. I let my neighbor overstep boundaries and do things he shouldn't have done with me. I gave him permission to step into my house. Oh my, I'm very stupid. I allowed my emotions to get the best of me. I honestly don't know how I got here, but one thing is certain. I totally regret everything now, but I guess it's too late already. I've lost everything already. I'm so ashamed of myself right now. I messed up big time. I don't even know how to tell my story. I'm not proud of what I did. My handsome neighbor offered to help fix my faucet while my husband was gone, and somehow I slept with him. Everything happened so fast that I couldn't even control myself. Now I'm losing my mind because everything went south so fast. My husband ruined my life after finding out that I slept with our neighbor. He took everything from me and made me a laughingstock. My husband divorced me immediately when he found out I had an affair with our neighbor. He left me nothing. He didn't even think about the 5 years we have spent together. He just threw everything out to the wind. I knew he wasn't going to be happy when he found out I cheated on him, but I didn't expect him to react the way he did. I didn't know I married a heartless man. My name is Chloe, and I'm a 29-year-old elementary school teacher. I have been an elementary school teacher for the past 5 years now. The name of my husband is Patrick, and he is a 30-year-old nurse. Patrick and I have been married for the past 5 years now, and I can tell you without mincing any words that Patrick is a good man. He is my God-sent shining armor. Patrick is everything I ever wanted in a man. Although he is not perfect, no one is perfect. I can tell you for a fact that Patrick is almost perfect. That's why everything hurts so much. It doesn't deserve this from me. I know there's no chance in hell that Patrick would forgive me if he ever finds out I cheated on him with our neighbor, and that it wasn't actually a one-time thing. Everything happened so fast that I felt weak. I wish I did things differently. I wouldn't be in this mess right now. I honestly regret everything that happened that day. It feels surreal. So on that particular day, I wanted to a bath, and I discovered my faucet wasn't working. I was running late for work, and I needed to have my bath before leaving. There was no way I was going to head for working smelling like lasagna. So I hurriedly stepped out looking for help. But unfortunately for me, I didn't find any help. So I decided to go back in and make a call for help. But on my way back, I met our handsome neighbor, Rock. Rock is a very handsome man. He has all the physical features every woman would want, and his body was beautifully built. Rock is a fitness coach, so I wasn't surprised he has an amazing body. Rock just recently parked to the building opposite ours, so he stopped me to ask some few questions. I was running late for work, but I decided to spare a few minutes and just chat with him, so it wouldn't seem I was rude or something. After putting Rock through on what he needed, he asked what was wrong and told him my faucet just suddenly stopped working. He asked to take a look if that was okay by me. I honestly wanted to decline, but I didn't have a choice because I had to go be at work early and I was already late. I knew it will take time before help finally arrives, so I reluctantly accepted Rock's offer. I wish I never did, though. That was the genesis of my problems. So we went inside the house, and I took Rock straight to our bathroom. Rock pulled off his clothes and started checking the faucet to see what was wrong. He claimed he didn't want to stain his clothes. Rock's body was a beautiful sight to behold. At that point, I couldn't hold myself anymore. There was this undeniable chemistry between us. That was it, guys. One thing led to another, and I slept with Rock. I felt so ashamed of myself. I couldn't believe I broke my marriage vows. I couldn't even believe I cheated on Patrick, my husband, with our who just parked in barely a week ago. I was so lost for words. I didn't know what to do at that point. The only thing that was running through my head was, what will Patrick do when he finds out I cheated on? I immediately asked Rock to leave and that he should never show himself before me again. But the truth is, I didn't mean what I was saying. Deep down in my heart, I wanted him to stay. So he left, and I hurriedly took my bath and rushed to work. I couldn't concentrate on work all through that day. I kept thinking about Rock and the good time we had together. I was also lost in thought about what Patrick would do if he ever finds out I cheated on him. Patrick has been out of town for work for 3 consecutive months now, so I was lonely, and I let my loneliness get the best of me. My affair with Rock continued, and I couldn't bring myself to stop. Everything was going smoothly, and I was enjoying the undivided attention I was getting from Rock until Patrick returned from his. Trouble started when Patrick returned and didn't find me in our home. I forgot to tell you guys that I actually moved in with Rock in his apartment. So when Patrick returned by 10 p.m. on that fateful day and didn't meet me at our apartment, he called me to ask of my whereabouts, and I lied to him that I was at home. He asked which home, and I told him our home. I was getting annoyed with his questions at this point because he was already running my movie date with Rock. To my greatest surprise, he asked me to stop lying and told me he was at our apartment. At that point, guys, I jumped from Rock's arm. I froze for a few seconds. I immediately ended the call and started thinking of what to do next. I told Rock about my predicament and he came up with a lie for me, so I rushed to our apartment. When I saw how furious Patrick was, I decided to go with Rock's idea. I lied to Patrick that I was nauseous and just stepped out to the neighborhood for fresh air, and that I knew it was late. That was why I couldn't tell I was outside taking a walk, as I didn't want him to be worried. From the look on Patrick's face, I knew he didn't believe anything I was saying, but he didn't have any proof, so he let the matter go. He told me he trusts me, and he knows I wouldn't do anything to jeopardize the love we have. That word broke me. It was at that point that I really repented for all my wrongdoings. I felt bad for breaking the trust Patrick had in me, and for allowing lust and loneliness take the best of me. I wasn't myself. I wanted to confess so badly, but I was scared. I didn't know how Patrick was going to react. Patrick and I promised each other that we would never cheat under any circumstances. I was even the one that made Patrick promise me he wouldn't cheat on me when he was going on his trip. So we both promised each other we would be faithful to one another. I can't believe I broke that promise. Patrick said he wanted to surprise me, and that was why he arrived without informing me, even though we spoke earlier on the phone. Patrick started suspecting something was wrong with me. According to him, it seems I wasn't happy to see him. Every day he would ask continuously if something was wrong because I was always lost and moody. I wanted to confess, but I didn't have the balls to do that. The thought of losing my marriage scared the shit out of me. I couldn't confess to Patrick about my cheating escape. I knew he wouldn't understand why I cheated. Even I don't understand the reason I cheated. I can't even explain it. Patrick is a one-in-a-lifetime kind of man. Every woman would be so lucky to have him in their lives. I can't believe I ruined everything by sleeping with our neighbor. Patrick made sure he provided everything I needed. Money was never my problem. Even though I work, I hardly spend my money. Patrick is the one that does everything for me. I was only working because of my passion for teaching and children. I love kids so much, they literally melt my heart. Update. Hi guys, I'm back to update you guys on what happened next. I thought everything would just disappear with time, but I guess it is true what they say that nothing can be hidden forever. I thought my secret would be hidden forever, but I was wrong. After blocking Rock on phone calls and all social media and warning him to stay away from me, I thought that was the end of everything, but I was wrong. One day while Patrick and I were enjoying the cool natural breeze on our corridor, a crazy lady stormed up on our property and started making a scene. She started by calling me all sorts of derogatory names, and before I could even say a word, she gave me a dirty slap. At this point, Patrick had to step in. He stood between me and the lady and held me while questioning the lady why she slapped me. The lady told Patrick to stay out of the matter and he would be more pissed if he found out what I did. At this point, I was confused. I didn't think far. I thought it was just an angry lady who was having a bad day transferring her aggression at me. But my heart skipped when I saw Rock heading towards our apartment. Apparently, the lady is Rock's girlfriend. I felt embarrassed that day, guys. I wanted the ground to open so I could just disagree. I can never forget that day. I still remember everything vividly. The lady went on to accuse me of stealing her man and even cohabiting with. She called me a shameless and uncultured woman. Patrick stopped her and told her that maybe there was a mix-up somewhere and that I wasn't capable of such an act. Patrick asked me to say something and defend myself at least. But unfortunately, I couldn't utter a word. The only word that came out of my mouth was sorry. I knelt down and started apologizing to Patrick, and to my greatest surprise, he gave me another dirty slap and went inside. He left me outside with Rock and the crazy angry lady. Rock was finally able to drag his crazy girlfriend away from the house, but not after she had finished raining curses on me. She even wanted to get physical with me, but Rock was able to pull her away just in time. I couldn't believe what was happening. It all felt like a dream to me. The secret I have been trying to hide has finally been exposed. I felt ashamed of myself. At that point, I realized the lust was not worth losing my marriage over. I blamed myself for ruining my marriage with my own hands. I decided to go inside so I could at least explain things to Patrick, but I couldn't open the door. Apparently, Patrick had locked me outside. Worst of it all was that my phone was inside and I couldn't call anyone. I tried calling out to him severally to please open the door so I could at least explain everything to him, but all my pleas went on deaf ears. He refused to open the door, and I actually slept outside that night. The following morning, I woke up to Patrick throwing my clothes in the trash. I tried stopping him, but he sternly warned me not to try anything funny. Patrick threw my clothes outside and asked me to leave his house. I couldn't believe my eyes. It felt like I was having a nightmare. I continued pleading with Patrick to please forgive me, but he took the car and drove off. Before going, he warned me to get my things and get back before he returned, else he would call the cops on me for trespassing. The look on his face says it all. I couldn't even recognize the man talking to me. It felt like I was talking to a complete stranger. Honestly, I wasn't expecting this reaction from Patrick. I knew he would be angry, but why was he treating me like an outcast? Even to the extent of locking me outside and throwing out my clothes in the trash and even threatening to call the cops on me. One was certain. Patrick has changed. He is not the man I married 5 years ago. I mean, didn't he promise for better for worse? Why would he chase me out for just a silly mistake? I was so pissed at Patrick that I started regretting getting married to him in the first place. I didn't know he was this heartless. I picked my clothes and phone from where Patrick had trashed my belongings, so I called an Uber and went to my friend's house. I explained everything to her, and she asked me to give Patrick time so that he would come around. I listened to her advice because I know that time is the greatest healer, but the more I tried to convince myself that I did nothing wrong, the more I feel guilty. 3 days later, I got a call that changed everything. It was a call from our lawyer. He asked me to come to his office because he wanted to see me urgently. I went to meet him, and I got the biggest shock of my life. Patrick had filed for a divorce. Honestly, I never expected that. I thought it was a prank at first. But when I gave me a pen to sign the papers, it dawned on me that it was definitely not a joke. Of course, I refused to sign the divorce papers. I told him I will have to see Patrick before I sign anything. I was scared at that point, but I had to act tough. My worst fear was finally coming to pass. I can't imagine my life without Patrick. There's no way I would divorce him, I said to myself as I headed to our house. Or should I say our former house? I arrived at our apartment. Luckily for me, the front door was opened. I met Patrick at the house drinking and smoking with a strange lady. I couldn't believe my eyes. Just 3 days after I left, Patrick had moved on. I can't explain how I felt at the moment. It was then I finally understood what Patrick might have felt when he discovered I cheated on him. I felt bad seeing Patrick and that lady. I was so hurt that I started crying. I knelt down and started begging him to forgive me. I asked the strange lady to excuse Patrick and I, but she refused to move an inch. So I begged Patrick to at least follow me outside so we could talk, but he said, I should say anything I have to there or leave if I don't have anything to say. I had to confess my cheating scandal to my husband and his new lover. I didn't have an option. I thought he would forgive me when I told him the truth. But instead, he got more furious when he discovered I usually slept with Rock in our apartment. He pushed me out and asked me to leave and never show my face before him again. He called me all sorts of unprintable names. His new girlfriend joined him to rain curses at me. I left there ashamed of myself and hurt. After trying everything possible to make Patrick change his mind with no results, I finally signed the divorce papers. The divorce proceedings are another phase entirely. I hated the entire process. It made me sick, but I didn't have an option. I had to appear in court for every hearing. And finally, Patrick and I got divorced. That was the worst day of my entire life. I never imagined Patrick and I would ever get divorced when we got married in San Francisco 5 years ago. That is one of my best memories till date. I can't believe I ruined that because I couldn't keep myself together. I know there was no way I would ever find a man like Patrick ever again. He was too good to be real. Honestly, I regret everything I did. I regret cheating on my husband. How I wish I could turn back the hands of time. I would have done things differently. I would have just left for work without showering on that fateful day, or I would have declined Rock's request of helping me to fix my faucet, or I could have controlled myself and not fall for Rock's charm. I was just thinking of things I could have done differently, but didn't. My life became a mess after the divorce. Everything wasn't making sense again. I didn't know where to start. I was completely lost. Patrick made sure I didn't get a penny from him. Not that I wanted his money, though. He didn't allow me to take all the valuable things he ever bought for me. He didn't even allow me to take the car he bought for me on my birthday 3 years ago. I was jumping from one Uber to another. My salary was barely enough. It was after the divorce that I knew the value of what I had. I wasn't really spending my salary on anything. I spent my salary mostly on junks. Patrick was the one that was running the house with his money. He paid all the bills. So it was hard for me to adjust to paying my own bills after having someone do that for me for the past 5 years now. I struggle with almost everything. Bills were piling up and I couldn't afford to pay. Worst of all is that I had no savings. Patrick stopped footing my dad's medical bills. My dad has been sick for a while now, and Patrick solely took the responsibility of catering for his medication. After our divorce, Patrick stopped doing all that. All the burden was now on me. The medications were expensive. I didn't even know it was this expensive because Patrick never told me anything about it. He just took the bills from the doctor and was paying for it every month. He even stopped sending my parents upkeep money like he always does every month. I never knew Patrick was this heartless, though. How could he stop paying my dad medication bills because we are divorced and he knew I couldn't afford it? Doesn't he have a little human sympathy? All this was what was running through my mind. I was honestly disappointed in him, but I don't blame him. I would have done the same if I was in his shoes. Everything was my fault, and I take full responsibility for that. I became homeless after my friend was transferred to another state and she relocated fully there. I was chased out of the apartment because I could not afford to pay for rent. I became homeless. Everything happened in a twinkle of an eye. It still baffles me to understand how I went from living in a comfortable apartment to squatting with my friend and now being homeless. Out of desperation, I decided to go visit Rock to see if we could continue from where we stopped, or if he could assist me with some money, or maybe I could squat with him for a few days. I arrived at Rock's apartment with full hope. I thought everything he would definitely ask me to come to stay with him since I was divorced now and there was no obstacle. But to my greatest surprise, Rock told me I couldn't stay at his place and that he has moved on and I should do the same. I was flabbergasted. I couldn't believe my ears. I asked him for money and he told me he didn't have any money because his rich girlfriend that used to give him broke up with him thanks to me, and he is trying to woo her back and that he can't risk me ruining things for him any longer. Apparently the crazy lady is filthy rich and she was the one sponsoring Rock's extravagant lifestyle. Now I understand why he didn't do anything when the crazy lady was attacking me. Rock refused to assist me, instead he sent me away. I felt bad for myself. I can't even believe I ruined my marriage because of someone like Rock. How did I bring myself to cheat on a decent man who was earning an honest living with a man who could not feed himself, but depends on one entitled, spoiled rich lady for his daily meal? It was then it dawned on me that Rock was also using me too. I was the one paying for food and everything all through the time we were having an affair. He always claimed his cards were not working every damn time. I was footing his bills with the money Patrick was sending to me. How foolish of me. Rock masterminded everything, and unfortunately I fell for his tricks. I decided to move on with my life, but it wasn't really easy. But I started building my life from all over again. I started staying with my high school friend Charlotte, who is a baker. I told her my ordeal. She had pity on me and offered me her place to stay. While staying with her, I started assisting her in her store and also started learning how to bake. Baking became therapeutic for me. Slowly, I'm beginning to forgive myself for ruining my life with my own hands and for hurting the man that loved me unconditionally. I still feel bad for everything, and I still cry myself to bed every night. No day passes by without me feeling sorry for Patrick. I know he doesn't deserve what I put him through. Deep down, I still hope he will forgive me, and we can still come back together because I honestly don't picture my life with anyone else apart from Patrick. That is my story, guys. I hope everyone, especially ladies, gets to read my story and hopefully learn something from it. Not all the glitters are gold. Don't hurt a good man because you feel you found someone better. I hope we all learn to stay faithful in our marriage so we don't end up like me.